Well, welcome back to MTG Burgeoning. We are your channel for all things magic. In today's video, we are going to add the next 20 creature cards with converted mana costs of 2 into our Momir Vig Cube. What's up, MTG That is the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back to another installment of our ongoing Momir Vig Cube series. If you are unfamiliar with the goals or purposes of this series, you can search in the description below for a link to MTG Burgeoning's introduction to the Momir Vig Cube. And while you're down there searching for that link, you can also click the link to Cube Cobra, where you can see the entire contents of the cube as they stand right now. So here we have the next 20 creature cards with mana values of 2 going into our cube, and we begin with a Shadowmoor Classic Mistmeadow Witch. It's a 1/1 that we can pay 2 in Azorius colors to remove target creature from the game and return that card to play under its owner's control at the end of turn. However, this is Momir Vig, and every creature on the battlefield is a token copy of a creature summoned from the cube. So, for the purposes of this variant, Mistmeadow Witch's ability reads, tap 2, a white and a blue, exile target creature. That makes Mistmeadow Witch possibly the most powerful 2-drop in the entire cube. Next up, we're going back all the way to the days of Stronghold for a classic goblin named Mogmaniac. It's a 1/1, and whenever it's dealt damage, Mogmaniac deals an equal amount of damage to target opponent. Sure, send that mammoth, non-evasive biggin at us. We'll put the Mogmaniac in front of it. Happy taking 7, 8, 10 damage if the opponent is a little less savvy about what's going on the battlefield. All right, creature number 3, our first colorless edition. We have the Mir Sire, a 1/1 that when it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, we create a 1/1 colorless Mir artifact creature token and put that bad boy right onto the battlefield. In a format such as Momir Vig, where everything is about creatures, any creatures that can create creatures should be highly coveted. And the Mir Sire could very well be one of those creatures. Next up, back-to-back colorless editions. This time it's the Narnam Cobra, a 2/1 snake that we can pay a green mana to give Death Touch until the end of turn. You just got to make sure you're packing those green mana sources in your basic land deck, because every deck in Momir Vig is 60 cards full of basic lands. Please be sure you've got the appropriate amount of colors in there so that you can activate the abilities of your creatures, like your Mistmeadow Witch. All right, creature number 5, our third consecutive colorless edition, and this is Necropede. It's a 1/1 with Infect, and we all know about Infect. Even in Momir Vig, you can win a game by poisoning an opponent with 10 Infect counters. And when Necropede is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, or i.e. when it dies, we may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. So this little infecting insect could potentially cause a lot of early game problems for its opponents. Creature number 6, we're going mono green here, and this time it is Nessian Hornbeetle, a 2/2 insect that reads at the beginning of combat on our turn. If we control another creature with power 4 or greater, we will put a +1/+1 counter on Nessian Hornbeetle. In the progressive nature of what Momir Vig is, as we continue to summon copies of creatures from the cube, it seems inevitable that we should be able to trigger Nessian Hornbeetle's +1/+1 counter ability. The only question is, can we hold out long enough in order to make it an effective beater in combat? That remains to be seen. All right, next up, our first multicolored. I'm sorry, I read that the wrong way. No, it is our first multicolored. No, I'm sorry, Mistmeadow Witch was our first one. That is correct. It is an Azorius hybrid. We have another Azorius creature. This time it is New Prov Guildmage, 2/2 human wizard. We can pay Azorius colors to give target creature flying until end of turn. That is a fantastic way to provide evasion to some creatures that can break through and send your opponent's life totals down to 0. We're beginning the game with 24 life for each player, and any way you can slide in to reduce that total to closer and closer to 0, we want to make sure we can take advantage of that ability as much as possible. And again, make sure you've got those white and blue mana sources in your basic land library so that you can activate New Prov Guildmage's first ability. Its second ability of 3 in Azorius colors will allow you to detain target non-land permanent an opponent controls. For the purposes of Momir Vig, that should just read detain target creature an opponent controls, because there are only creatures in Momir Vig and nothing else. And if you're a little rusty about your return to Ravnica mechanics, to detain something, that means until your next turn, that permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities cannot be activated. So with the appropriate amount of mana on your side of the battlefield, you can really tap down a problematic or troublesome creature that one of your opponents controls. Another multicolored edition. This time it is Nin the Pain Artist. We got a 1/1 Vidalcan wizard with an ability that lets us pay X Izzet colors and tap it to have Nin the Pain Artist deal X damage to target creature, and then that creature's controller draws X cards. This may seem a little outside the realm of understandability, or maybe even outside the box, but for the purposes of this format, you want to use Nin to ping your own creatures to continuously fill your hand. Every time we summon a creature from the Momir Vig Cube, we must discard a card from our hands, and the library is comprised of nothing but basic lands, and you need to play lands in order to generate the mana through your Momir Vig SIMIC Visionary Avatar so that you can summon those creatures. Allowing Nin the Pain Artist to put more and more cards into our hands allows us to summon a creature every single turn because we'll have a card to discard, as well as not missing any vital land drops. Nin the Pain Artist, sneaky, sneaky good card for popping off your own creatures. All right, next up we have another mono red edition. This time, who remembers Ak? Come on, you gotta remember Ak back from Urza's Saga. It's a 4/4 that can't attack unless a creature with greater power also attacks. And Ak cannot block unless a creature with greater power also blocks. So Ak is just gonna kind of chill on your side of the battlefield until you get a creature that's just a bit bigger, and then Ak will do what Ak needs to do. Good old Urza Saga Ak. You gotta love that guy. All right, reaching the halfway point of this video, we're going to a Shadows over Innistrad original, and that's going to be Olivia's Bloodsworn, a 2/1 flyer that can't block, but you can pay a red mana to give target vampire haste until end of turn. Although there are some number of vampires woven into this Momir Vig Cube, the fact that this vampire has flying and potentially could give itself haste really makes it become one of the creatures you want to see on your side of the battlefield early in a game. Staying with mono black, this time it is Onyx Mage, 2/1 human wizard. We can pay 1 and a black mana to give target creature we control death touch until end of turn. Of course, you can only do so if you have that appropriate black mana. So make sure your basic land library has those black mana sources. This next creature was chosen to go into the cube just to make sure that your opponents, or my opponents, are savvy enough to know how to not get abused by it. It's a Tempest oldie. It is Oracle and Vec. It's a 1/1 wizard that we can tap, and then target opponent chooses any number of creatures they control. During that player's next turn, those creatures attack if able, and no other creatures can attack. At the end of that turn, destroy each of those creatures that did not attack. Use this ability only during our turn. The pressing point here is our Are our opponents savvy enough to not choose any of their creatures and then just have Oracle and Vex activated ability fizzle out? I am optimistic that not everyone will make the right choice. All right, next up, another mono black. We have Orzhov Enforcer, a 1/2 Death Toucher, and it has Afterlife 1, which means whenever it dies, it's going to create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. This is value on top of value. We got a 1/2 Death Toucher that can trade up with any creature our opponents have, and it replaces itself with an evasive creature that can swing in and chip away at our opponent's life totals. All right, next up, we're going to Marcadian Masks for creature number 14, and that is Overtaker. It's a 1/1 that we can pay 3 and a blue mana, tap, discard a card from our hand, and then we can untap target creature and gain control of it until end of turn, and that creature gains haste until end of turn. This could be a potentially very, very sneaky, powerful creature, particularly if any of the abilities that our creatures have on our side of the battlefield may be sacrificial abilities. You can tap Overtaker, take a problematic creature, send it into combat at that opponent or a different opponent, and then hopefully try to get rid of it with one of our other creatures' abilities. If we can't, we can still send it at another opponent and make sure that our creatures are staying safe out of harm's way. All right, reaching the 3/4 mark of this video, our next creature is Pack Rat. It's a rat. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of rats we control, and we can pay 2 and a black mana and discard a card to put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of Pack Rat. This may end up being more valuable than discarding a card to summon a copy of a creature from the Momir Vig Cube. You're paying just 3 mana. You are still discarding a card, but the more rats you put out there, the bigger they're going to get. Sticking with mono black in a segment of the Momir Vig series that so far has been pretty dominant black for this episode, we have Pale Rider of Trostad, a 3/3 spirit with the Skulk mechanic. That is an ability that we really need to see more in Magic. Skulk means that this creature can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. So any creature that tries to block Pale Rider of Trostad, you're not going to do that if your power is 4 or more. And whenever Pale Rider of Trostad ETBs, we have to discard a card. So it's a little bit of a throwback to get a 3/3 for a mana investment of 2 that has that nice Skulk mechanic. All right, next up, another mono blue edition. We have the Pass Wall Adept. 1/3, pay 2 and a blue, and target creature can't be blocked this turn. Just make sure you have those blue mana sources, MTG BC. All right, the last 3 creatures of this video are all colorless editions. Number 18 is Perilous Mirror. It's a 1/1 that when it dies, it will deal 2 damage to any target. That is combat chicanery at its best. Number 19, we have Phyrexian Revoker. When it ETBs, name a non-land card. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name cannot be activated. So if there is a creature on the opponent's side of the battlefield that is causing all kinds of problems or trouble with an activated ability, well, Phyrexian Revoker will revoke our opponent's ability to activate that ability. All right, MTG BC. Number 20, from a Shadowmoor Classic, we have Pilipala. It's a 1/1 flying scarecrow. We can pay 2 and untap. Whoosh! That is the untap mechanic, folks. Untap. So if this bad boy is already tapped, we can pay 2, untap it, and add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. Now, that's not necessarily mana ramp. It could be potential for mana fixing if we need a specific color to activate one of the abilities of the many, many creatures with activated abilities we've seen here just in this video alone. And that is because you gotta make sure you put all your colors in your basic land library. Pilipala, you are creature number 20 in this video, and you are creature number 790 overall. There you have it, MTG BC. These are creatures 771 to 790. Let me know which are your favorite in the comments section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic.